First contact misconceptions. The galactic survey vessel Eternal Curiosity decelerated into Earth's orbit with barely a ripple in the fabric of space. Captain Zirival stood on the command deck, her translucent blue skin shimmering under the ambient light as she gazed at the blue-green planet below. "Begin preliminary scans," she ordered, her four eyes blinking in sequence. "I want a full analysis of the dominant species before we proceed with the detailed survey." Science Officer Merrick nodded, his scaled fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "Initial data suggests they call themselves humans. Bipedal mammals with minimal physical defenses. No claws, weak dentition, thin skin, limited sensory capabilities." Tactical Officer Drex scoffed, the ridges on his forehead darkening with amusement. "Another evolutionary dead end. How did they even become dominant on their world?" "That's what we're here to determine," Zirival replied calmly. "The Galactic Council has marked this solar system for potential expansion. Standard protocol requires comprehensive assessment of all indigenous life. The Eternal Curiosity had visited 17 worlds with sentient life in the past cycle. Most species fit neatly into established categories: predators with advanced hunting adaptations, hive-minded collectives, or symbiotic partnerships. Humans, however, defied initial classification. Their biological metrics suggested vulnerability, yet they had conquered their planet and begun tentative explorations beyond their atmosphere. They appear to be in a pre-stellar development phase, cultural specialist Thela observed, her feathery antennae twitching with interest. Primitive fission/fusion technology, rudimentary artificial intelligence, limited genetic modification capabilities. Their space travel is barely beyond their own moon. Threat assessment, Zirival inquired. Drex brought up comparative charts. Negligible. Their weapons are kinetic or chemical-based. Nothing our shields couldn't handle. Their reaction time is roughly half of galactic average for sentient species. Muscle density is unimpressive. They're essentially defenseless by our standards. Fascinating, Zirival murmured. Yet they've eliminated all competitor species and dominate their world. There must be something we're missing. Prepare a stealth observation team. I want eyes on the ground. The observation module deployed silently, touching down in a remote forested area near a medium-sized human settlement. The four-member team, Drex, Thela, biologist Novan, and technician Kelvy, activated their photonic camouflage fields, rendering them invisible to human detection methods. "Remember," Drex instructed as they approached the settlement perimeter, "observation only. No interaction with the subjects." They moved through the outskirts of what humans call the suburb, recording everything. Humans moved about in primitive wheeled vehicles or on foot, seemingly oblivious to potential threats. They carried no visible weapons, displayed no natural defenses, and appeared completely vulnerable. "Look at their young," Novan noted, observing a gathering of small humans in an enclosed area. Completely defenseless, yet the adults leave them minimally supervised. "A species without predators becomes complacent," Drex remarked dismissively. "They've clearly been unthreatened for so long they've lost basic survival instincts." Thela wasn't convinced. That contradicts their historical records. They've engaged in continuous warfare throughout their documented history. These aren't the behaviors of a species without threats. As evening approached, the team positioned themselves near a commercial district, observing humans engaged in social rituals involving food and intoxicating beverages. "Their social structures are curious," Thela noted. "No apparent biological hierarchies, yet they form complex dominance patterns." Suddenly, Kelvy's sensors alerted. Elevated biochemical markers detected. 2 humans are exhibiting stress responses. The team focused on 2 males outside an establishment. The larger one was displaying aggressive posturing toward the smaller. Typical dominance behavior, nothing remarkable. Until the smaller human reacted. The transformation was instantaneous and alarming. The smaller human's biochemistry shifted dramatically. Pupils dilated, muscles tensed, respiration and cardiac rhythms optimized. What happened next stunned the observation team. The smaller human executed a series of precisely calculated movements that neutralized the aggressor in seconds. "That's impossible," Drex hissed, checking his equipment. "The speed and precision of those movements exceeds our preliminary capability assessment by 300%. Novan was frantically analyzing the biometric data, his skeletal muscular systems just reconfigured for maximum efficiency. Latent muscle fibers activated instantaneously. Neural pathways I didn't even detect earlier lit up like a cascading power grid. More disturbing still was what happened afterward. The human simply walked away, his systems returning to baseline dormancy within minutes. "It was like watching a weapon power down," Kelvy whispered. Over the next 3 days, the team observed similar incidents across the settlement. A female protecting her offspring demonstrated strength that should have been physiologically impossible. An elderly human reacted with reflexes that defied their biological age limitations. A youth evaded danger with spatial awareness that contradicted all previous sensory capability assessments. "We need to expand our survey," Drex insisted during their secure communication with the ship. "These incidents can't be statistical anomalies." Captain Zurival authorized deployment of additional observation modules to different human population centers around the planet. The results were consistent and increasingly disturbing. "They're all like this," Novan reported a week later, his usual scientific detachment cracking. "Every human we've observed possesses these dormant capabilities. They don't just switch to a fight or flight response like other species. They transform into combat-optimized entities when threatened." Cultural specialist Thela had been analyzing human information networks. Their entertainment is even more revealing. They create endless simulations of conflict scenarios. They appear to be constantly mentally rehearsing threat responses, but they present as non-threatening. Zurival mused, reviewing the accumulated data. "Their default state is dormancy. It's almost as if they're conserving energy," Novan finished, "or hiding." The command deck fell silent as the implications settled over the crew. "We need to understand the full extent of their capabilities," Zurival decided. "Authorize limited interaction. Let's see what happens when they perceive a non-human threat." Security protocols advised against such direct engagement, but scientific curiosity and growing concern overrode caution. The observation team selected an isolated human facility, what humans designated a research station, in a remote region. Using control technology, they generated what would appear to be a system failure, trapping 5 humans inside. What they witnessed next would fundamentally alter the Galactic Council's classification of Earth and its inhabitants. The dormant predator awakens. The observation team watched from their concealed position as alarms blared throughout the research station. 5 humans, 3 males and 2 females according to their binary classification, reacted to the manufactured crisis. The aliens expected panic, disorganization, perhaps even paralysis in the face of danger. What they saw instead was transformation. Recording all biometric data, Novan murmured, his fingers trembling slightly over his instruments. Full spectrum analysis. The humans moved with sudden, fluid precision. Gone was the casual inefficiency the aliens had observed in everyday human movements. These movements were economical, purposeful, predatory. More remarkable was their instant self-organization. Without apparent formal hierarchy, the 5 humans established clear roles, communicated in truncated speech patterns, and began methodically addressing their situation. "They're not even using vocal communications now," Thela noted with growing unease. "Look at their micro-expressions and gestures. They are communicating through a secondary system." One human, a female with no special physical characteristics, took charge. Her heart rate had actually decreased under pressure, her neurological patterns showing heightened activity in problem-solving centers, while emotion-regulating systems maintained perfect balance. "That's not natural," Drex muttered. "No species responds to threat by becoming calmer." No species we've encountered before. Zirival corrected from her position on the ship, watching the live feed with growing concern. The crisis escalated as planned. Environmental systems failing, temperature dropping, communications disabled. The observation team expected the humans to focus on survival and comfort. Instead, they watched as the humans methodically converted ordinary objects into tools and potential weapons. They're preparing for combat, Drex realized. But we haven't introduced any hostile entities into the scenario. Thila's analysis was more troubling. They're defaulting to assuming intelligent hostile intent behind the system's failure. Their baseline assumption is that they're being hunted. As if to confirm this assessment, the humans began systematic defensive preparations. They secured access points, created improvised alarm systems, established fallback positions, and distributed their makeshift weapons according to apparent individual proficiencies that hadn't been evident hours before. Captain, Novan reported, his voice strained, I'm detecting significant changes in their biochemistry. Endocrine alterations, neurotransmitter cascades unlike anything in our databases. They're optimizing their systems for sustained crisis response. One of the males, the oldest human, a researcher with a specialization in atmospheric science according to their database, was now moving with the coordination and awareness of a trained combatant. His previous arthritic movements had vanished. When he tested the balance of his improvised weapon, a simple metal rod extracted from equipment, he did so with the practiced assessment of someone intimately familiar with combat. General physical enhancement is one thing, Drex said, but specific combat knowledge can't spontaneously manifest. They must maintain combat training throughout their population. The observation team continued monitoring as the humans systematically worked to restore their systems while maintaining defensive readiness. Their problem-solving capabilities under pressure defied previous cognitive assessments. They were thinking faster, more creatively, with perfect coordination. I've seen enough, Zirival decided. Terminate the experiment. Restore their systems remotely. The team began the process of subtly returning the station's systems to normal function, making it appear as though the humans had successfully resolved the crisis. But as they did, one of the sensors malfunctioned, emitting a brief energy signature that should have been undetectable to human technology. It wasn't. All 5 humans froze simultaneously, then moved with alarming synchronization. They didn't flee or hide. They converged, weapons ready, toward the exact location of the energy anomaly. Impossible, Kelvy breathed. Their instruments couldn't have detected that. It wasn't their instruments, Novan replied, checking the biometric feeds. It was them. Their sensory perception just spiked across all parameters. The humans were now moving toward the observation team's position with grim purpose, communicating through hand signals and micro-expressions with perfect coordination. Their biochemistry had shifted again. They were now operating at peak combat efficiency. Withdraw immediately, Zirival ordered, all scientific curiosity replaced by urgent concern for her team's safety. Return to the ship. Full stealth protocols. The team barely managed to extract before the humans reached their position. From orbit, they watched as the humans systematically searched the surrounding area, establishing search patterns and security cordons with military precision. These are civilians, Thila reminded everyone, her voice hollow with realization. According to their records, none of these individuals has formal combat training. The youngest female is a theoretical physicist. The oldest male specializes in meteorological patterns. On the command deck of the Eternal Curiosity, Captain Zirival made a decision that would alter the course of galactic exploration policy. Prepare a comprehensive report for the Council, she ordered. Classification update for species designation, human. Revised threat assessment from negligible to extreme. Recommended protocol, non-engagement. On what grounds, Captain? Her first officer inquired, though the answer was becoming clear to everyone who had reviewed the observation data. Humans are not what they appear to be, Zirival replied, watching the planet rotating below. They're not a vulnerable species that somehow survived through luck or environmental advantages. They're apex predators in a dormant state. She brought up the consolidated data on the main display, the neurological adaptations, the concealed physical capabilities, the apparent universal combat knowledge, the sensory perception that activated under threat. Every human we observed transformed from an ordinary bipedal mammal into a finely tuned combat organism when threatened. They don't just have a fight or flight response, they have a third state, predator mode. But why maintain dormancy? The first officer asked. Why not operate at peak efficiency all the time? Thela, who had joined them on the command deck, offered the most disturbing theory. Energy conservation is the simple answer. But cultural analysis suggests something more strategic. They're hiding their capabilities. Hiding. Several crew members exchanged confused glances. Consider the implications, Zurival elaborated. A species evolves not just physical capabilities, but the ability to completely conceal those capabilities behind a facade of vulnerability. What kind of evolutionary pressure creates that adaptation? The command deck fell silent as the same conclusion dawned across the crew. They evolved in response to being hunted, Drex finally said, his earlier dismissiveness replaced by solemn respect. Not just by predatory animals, but by intelligent predators. Or they are the predators, Novan added, who learned that appearing harmless was the most effective hunting strategy. As the eternal curiosity prepared to break orbit, Captain Zurival added one final note to her report to the Galactic Council. Earth classification. Restricted. Humans present as non-threatening social mammals engaged in early technological development. Evidence suggests this is deliberate evolutionary camouflage, concealing their true nature as highly adapted combat organisms with dormant predatory capabilities that activate instantly under threat. Most concerning, their apparent universal combat competence suggests either genetic memory or concealed widespread combat training across their entire population. Recommendation: Earth to be designated as a no-contact zone under Galactic Protocol 7 Alpha. Any species attempting settlement or resource acquisition in this system must be warned. Humans are not what they appear to be. They are apex predators in dormant mode, and we have no way of knowing what would happen if their entire species were to awaken simultaneously to an external threat. Final assessment: we did not discover humans. We merely observed them while they allowed it, and I suspect they were studying us in return. The ship accelerated away from Earth, leaving behind a small, innocuous-looking blue planet whose inhabitants continued their daily routines, working, playing, creating, all while their extraordinary capabilities remained dormant, waiting for the moment they might be needed again.